So you join me from a perfect, well, near perfect sound recording booth. It's actually an office table inside a hotel. We are at the South by Southwest here in the capital of Texas, in Austin. Joining me across the table today on this edition is singer, songwriter, axe plucker extraordinaire. He's the young up-and-coming star, Clay Melton, from the Clay Melton Band. Clay, great to have you along today as you get ready for your gig that you've got coming up.
Yes, sir. We're playing at the Red Shed Tavern, part of a Texas Indie Fest. It's our first performance up here at South by Southwest, so we're excited.
Now, we are kind of just literally on the edge of Austin. It's not very often that we can grab an artist over breakfast. Most artists go, breakfast, 8 o'clock in the morning? Forget it. But you courteously said, hey, why not? It's South by Southwest, anything goes. It was a good breakfast too, and today's artist expose is all about you, and it's all about your few years, but literally those few years you've made a mark already. And you're 21 years of age as we're talking right now, right?
Yes.
Originally from Louisiana?
Lake Charles.
And you find yourself now living in Houston, Texas. At the age of 21, I see things like one of Texas's top 10 guitarists, a name to remember, noted bluesman Brad Absher saying that, you're welcome on his stage anytime. How on earth, at the age of 21, have you got to be already so well sort of groomed and known?
I just love playing music. Me and my dad have been on a journey of working in the industry and just trying to create opportunities for ourselves. And Brad said some very nice things. He was actually the first band we opened up for when I was probably 14, 2010. And so I've just been working at it.
You've been through Sugar Hill Studios. You're now working with Imerica Entertainment. So that'll be Michael B. Sutton from the Michael Jackson era fame, producing, co-producing, that type of stuff. Tell me, I'm trying to get my head around it. So let's go back a few years. Let's go back to the start, because all of this is great stuff, but I'm just trying to get my head around how you can be 21 and just doing so great. So at the age of 10-ish,
Yep.
You picked up a guitar because of some music that you heard inside your dad's car?
Yeah, my dad played All Along the Watchtower, Hendrix's version, and specifically the solo. There's a part there that goes into kind of a slow slide that he does, and that really grabbed me. I had never heard a guitar sound like that or an instrument, and today that record's one of my favorite produced records. I love the mix on it. It's unique and it's different for its time. But just hearing that made me I was like, I want to do that. I want to make that sound.
There must be some kind of way out of here. Say the joker to the thief.
So I had a practice guitar that was completely out of tune, but I had some of Hendrix's recordings, and I learned to play some of them just note for note with my out of tune guitar. I didn't put it down.
And by the time you were sort of 13 or so, your guitar tutor, the person who was teaching you at the time, I think said to your parents, hey, I can't really go much further with him because he's pretty darn good as he is, and he's kind of excelling to a point where I can't teach him anything new at this point.
Yeah, it just kind of got to the point where we'd get together and we'd just jam instead of learning things. And he actually suggested kind of taking what he had taught me and trying to learn on my own. I think it was great advice for him to tell me to go on my own and try and just learn again by ear and stuff like that. After about a year and a half of lessons, I felt ready to try and learn.
Did you know in yourself that you wanted to be a musician at this point? This is when you're like 13, 14 years of age.
It was definitely a dream at that point.
So it was a dream. Was it a dream that was like, I really want to do this, that type of dream, or was it just a kind of like a childhood dream? Like, well, I might want to be a police officer, or I might want to be a firefighter, or I might want to be It was more than a dream, I think.
It was the type of dream that was a desire.
Okay, got you. having looked at everything that you've done, I've done my research on you, it seems like you had an unusual childhood then. You know, being this sort of up-and-coming musician, a musician at the age of 14 who was already grooming himself. You were already thinking, how do I do this? How do I get to be in this band? How do I write my music? And how do I produce? How do I get my sound? You were already kind of going into places that other 14-year-olds, the majority of us, weren't going. You were going in your direction, which was great. So how did that feel with other school friends and stuff? That's where I'm going.
Yeah, I mean, you know, actually all through middle school and most of high school, I still played sports and stuff like that, and I did track and football, and I enjoyed it a lot. But playing guitar is what I spent all my time doing otherwise. And it wasn't until I got towards the end of high school, you know, before then I was just playing because I loved it and I wanted to make music, and we were trying to play shows and stuff like that. But towards the end of high school, I started thinking about, you know, what do I really want to do, you know? And music was unanimous answer.
It was right there, yeah.
Yeah, it was just, there was no question in my mind, you know, I just wanted to play music.
Happy to be where you are now. Let me introduce the sound. Bring you to the edge of your seat. We like to believe we're in no hurry.
Actually, at the end of high school, I stopped public school and did my last year and a half through University of Texas online, and just so I could spend as much time as I could possibly have to play guitar and try and get better.
That's a brave move.
Yeah, I missed all my friends and stuff like that, and it was really tough learning subjects.
Like, I've got a note here. What did you miss the most? And you've just answered that. Your friends.
Yeah, definitely. Because you know, everybody's going different directions. And
Sure,
stuff
at
like
that age, they're starting to. You say goodbye to your mate John and your buddy Kim, and you know, people that you've grown up with, and they're going to this college, and they may be studying out of state, they may be studying abroad, or they may be going directly into some work placement with training. And yeah, as you say, that they're in new directions, but your direction, probably for the last 4 years, was music, music, music. That's what I'm going to do.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, and you got conviction about it, which is good. Tell me, I'm just kind of dotting around here. I've got loads of great things I want to talk to you about, and I know just over breakfast what we've had today, we're talking about the music industry, and we're talking about the radio industry, we're talking about the music, the rock industry, where it's going. But your first gig, let's go on to your first gig. Can you remember your first gig? Because I can remember the first gig I did, and I am not a musician by any way, shape or form, but tell me about your first gig. You know about mine, so I don't need to tell you.
The first show.
Where was it?
It was in Tomball, Texas, at Main Street Crossing, and like I said, we were opening up for Brad Apsher.
Yep.
And that show, that I count as my first proper show. Before, me and my buddy were playing at like local like neighborhood crawfish boils and parties, stuff like that.
Well, I want to know about that too then. So, okay, before Brad Apsher, before the professional kind of where you thought this is the turning point, this is when he says, hey, you're welcome on my stage anytime. And I think, was his quote something like, Texas Roots music is in safe hands with yourself? Something along those lines?
I believe so, something.
Very similar quote to that. I'm not saying that Brad said that exactly, by the way, but it's very close. But yeah, Texas Roots music is in safe hands. Let's go back one stage then where you were playing crawfish boils.
Yeah. It was just me and my buddy. He was on drums, and I used to ride my bike over to his house with my guitar on my back and my amp in my lap. We used to practice in the garage every day after school.
So, okay. So you got on the bicycle. So this was the Clay Melton band on tour then? This was your first tour
bus.
This was the first tour bus. It was the tour bicycle.
Yeah.
So you had an amp on the back, your guitar strapped on your back as well, I guess, and you went to your mates, your buddy, and you started to jam in a garage, right?
Yes.
I love it. Was this the sound that you took to the Brad Absher stage, or was this still kind of in its rudimentary, exploratory form?
I mean, it took about a good year and a half of jamming and really sucking to I guess get to the sound we were at whenever we played with Brad Absher. We were playing a lot of like basic rock and roll, a lot of Hendrix because I was still on a huge kick with that. And
Yeah, you were kind of groomed on it.
yes, exactly.
So your dad had it in the car. That's where you picked up on it. That's when you were playing music, and I guess that's where you kind of styled yourself to some extent.
Without a doubt. I mean, Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Led Zeppelin were basically my concrete foundation when I started playing music and started listening. Before, I'd been listening to a lot of classic rock as well.
Give me some
And
examples.
some country. I love Boston. I love the mixing for Boston. The Doobie Brothers. A little bit, like probably a year after that, I started going much more into blues. Because when I got into Stevie Ray,
Yeah.
I really loved Stevie, and so I went back to some of his influences, like Buddy Guy, Muddy Waters, B.B. King, Albert King, all the Kings. And I was just listening to anything I could get my hands on at that point.
It was fascinating for me because I've come across other artists, as we've done across the tables, who have quoted those same key figures, and they are the foundations of certain types and styles of music. You're 21. By the way, if you're just joining us, this is Clay Melton across the table with me today on our artist expose. Clay, 21 years old, from Louisiana originally, now out of Houston. We are here in Austin at the South by Southwest Festival, and Clay is actually going to be performing on stage with the Clay Melton Band later today as we record this. But we're just catching him over breakfast, and we're catching up on his kind of life today, the kind of personal biography about all he's done, where he's been, where he sees himself going. And we mentioned Houston there. We were talking about how your guitar teacher had kind of put you out into the open and said, hey, this guy's good. Can't really teach him much more. We're just kind of jamming together these days, and you were 13. But I see that down in Houston, you still spend time, you find time to give it back to other musicians now, and you're doing kind of mentoring sessions.
Oh yeah.
Tell me about that.
Teaching didn't occur to me until I was in my probably junior year of high school, and I didn't have a job at that time. Want to make some extra money, but I got the opportunity to do kind of a clinic at my bass player at the time school. He was a music teacher there, and it's an art school for underprivileged kids, and man, we just had a blast, and there's really were some great players there, and they're all in like 6th grade, 5th, 6th grade, and that got me really stoked because it was a lot of fun, and it's cool to see someone take something you talk about and really, really soak it in and either appreciate it or learn it. And so from there I started doing some private lessons and stuff, and it's nothing major, I have probably about 5 or 6 students right now, but it's a lot of fun.
You went to a Grammy block party yesterday, so rumor has it.
Yes.
Hanging out with one of the Kool and the Gang members, apparently.
Yeah, he was present.
He was present.
He was present.
Yeah?
Yeah, no, we actually got to shake hands, and I said hi and stuff like that. He offered my girlfriend a photography job.
Did she take the job?
I think she's going to.
The Recording Academy. To be a member of the Recording Academy, you're in the Texas chapter of the Recording Academy. How did you get into that? It was obviously that's quite an accolade to be welcomed into the Recording Academy, I guess, at the age of 21.
Becoming a part of the Grammy Association was something that was suggested by publicists we're working with right now, John in Houston. And so, the whole process, you give them your credentials and they want to see that you're an active member of the music industry.
Sure. Was this one of your first appearances at an event?
Yes, sir.
It was held, I think, down at the Four Seasons Hotel in Austin. We're here in Austin, and we're recording this at the South by Southwest, so it was kind of culminating the arts with the festival and bringing everybody together. So it was a great melting pot, I guess.
It was. There's so many people that were there for the festival anyways, so they came to the block party, and then lots of artists. Lots of people from all parts of the industry.
So you've got recording artists, you've got musicians, producers, you've got publicists, you've got reporters and journalists that are in the industry. So it's kind of a whole melting pot, as you say.
It really is, yeah.
And you don't really know who you're talking to unless they say, "Oh, I'm part of Kool and the Gang." Because I guess I wouldn't notice or know who that person was unless they were really prolific or I'd spent a lot of time stalking them, which is not something I tend to do. So moving on then, if there was one thing that you could achieve in the next 12 months, what would you like to see?
There's some key festivals that I'd really like to play. As far as being able to go back home to Houston and play Free Press Summerfest, that's always a good time. That's where me and my girlfriend met 2 years ago. It was kind of a spontaneous date. I had never really met her, and she gave me the tickets. Or she said I have 2 tickets, no one to go with the night before, and I hadn't been able to get some that year, so we just went, and it was a great experience. But that'd be a really cool festival to be a part of, and definitely a goal of ours.
So that's got a nice sort of tie back to A, where you call home now, Houston.
Yes.
And B, because it's with your girlfriend, and C, it's one of the first things you're ever to kind of go to and go, I want to perform on that stage.
Definitely.
All right, so we'll make that happen. That's one of the goals. If you were offered a tour, where and who would you like to be on stage with?
Oh wow, I'm a really big fan of John Mayer. I think he's a phenomenal guitarist.
If you could be on stage with John, anywhere would be good. That's what you're saying.
Cool. Yeah.
Have you got his number or email?
No, sir.
No, we need to get that for you. I like how Clay says no, sir. It's a very southern thing. It's very charming. It may be just I'm a few years older than Clay, but I like the fact that he understands that I am slightly older, and therefore I deserve respect, if that's the only thing I deserve today. So with a band, you've got the Clay Melton Band. It's a 3-piece band. The way that some have said and described you, they've described you as guitar-driven, pop-influenced, and Texas blues-oriented. If I could say it's enlightening and infectious, the way that you play, the energy that you put into your performance is pretty phenomenal. That's not me trying to bull this up to make it sound great because you're an artist and you're having your expose done across the table today. It's just the way it is. And anybody else who listens to it will find that it is infectious. It grips you. Kind of pull this together, because there's the rock element in there, and we know about your rock influences, your Led Zeppelins and your Jimi Hendrixes. I'll even say the Beatles a little bit.
Love the Beatles.
There you go. We were talking about that. Your Stevie Ray Vaughans, your John Mayers, even your Foo Fighters. Mm-hmm. To some extent, there's a little bit of a Foo Fighter sort of element in there as well, if you want to bring it onto a more modern day stage. But you've crafted this sound that it's not unique, but it's just different. It's not new, it's just refreshing. If you can see where I'm going with that, hopefully you can, because you've taken bits from the 60s and the 70s and the 80s to some extent, and you've taken some bits from the 2000s, and you've kind of created the Clay Melton Band. You've got this 3-piece band, you've got your guitarist, your drummer, you're the guitarist, you've got the drummer, and you've got your bass player. It's a fantastic sound.
Thank you.
It's a big sound as well.
Yeah, big guitar sound was something that really inspired me early on anyways, and I always wanted to make a recording with, a big guitar sound. That's what when we did the recording last July, we were running 3 amps in the room with 2 mics on each, and we blended all those together and to try and make the best tone we could.
It's perhaps a little bit like the Black Keys in terms of how they make that big sound. There's normally 3 of them, and they make this big sound, and it's possibly something along the lines that you've deployed. It's the style of creating that, not necessarily the style of playing, but the style of.
Doing anything as a 3-piece takes a lot of solid foundation. The rhythm section is so important to be able to carry all that space that there could be. Bass player has a lot to fill. People have asked, you play rock in your set, you do some blues, some alternative, and some people have called some of it punk and stuff like that. And then you ask why. I never sat down, and I never have sat down to try and write, a type of song or a type of style.
Yeah.
It's more just about capturing the inspiration for those songs or whatever I'm feeling at the time, and then whatever the grand idea turns into in the recording process is something else. But to contribute the style of the songs to one thing or another, I don't think I could do. I think it's just part of the inspiration at the time of the creation of the song that really counts.
How it evolves is how it evolves.
Yes.
And where it goes is where you and the other 2 guys in the band feel that it's going. It finds its own natural course, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
The rudimentary part of how you look at the backside of the performance, or the sound production, or the reproduction, the stage set, the presence, that kind of, the sound that you're creating. Not everybody has that, I think. And we were talking over breakfast earlier today about something that was, I found key. I found interesting to see a 21-year-old having that type of depth of knowledge. If you're wondering where we are, by the way, we're sitting in a hotel lobby here at South by Southwest. So we've just got people mulling past us, and the elevator, there we go, perfect time, dropping in and out. Clay opposite me across the table, and people coming in and around about. But this is South by Southwest, this is what happens. So going back to what we were talking about, i.e. the depth of knowledge about you understanding how a band has to be, and you said a band has to be, go on, put it in your own words, I don't want to say it.
Oh, well, just, a band today, in today's industry, has to be professional just as a start. They have to be tight. The performance has to be stellar anyways. And then past that, we were talking about all the different things that are, when a band is approaching a label, or a label's approaching a band, the things they look at that, is a lot bigger than just the base idea of having a good band.
Yeah.
The business side of it.
What does it take to get a record label to want to sign you or be interested in you? And you rightfully said, it's not necessarily about us going to a record label and saying, hey, we're here. It's about looking at it as the other side, as the other party. It's about you, Clay Melton, looking at Clay Melton as a record label, saying, all right, the Clay Melton band, they've got a business head, they've got direction, they've got a writer, they've got performance, stage presence, they know about playing. The playing bit's just one element of many other parts of the rudiments of this band and this product. And you said, we won't go anywhere unless we're perfect in all of those categories. And that's kind of refreshing, because I don't know if anybody thinks about that at the age of 21. Perhaps they do, but perhaps I'm just kind of impressed by your maturity at such a young age. If you were pitching to a record label now, what would you tell them?
I would tell them that we're ready to build a professional brand. Because like you said, when you're looking at it from a label's perspective, is that they want the great artist. Obviously, they want what people like, but they also want someone that has all their ducks in a row. And that's something that I have to contribute to my dad's business sense. Is he's taught me a lot about building a brand, building a product, working with people you trust, working with integrity, and I think the real players in the industry, they can cut through the bull very fast.
Your dad has been, and still is, supremely involved with your brand,
Yes.
with you, the band, and with you personally, of course. And you say that he's got an excellent business background, a business head on his shoulders. To have that support as well, I guess, is priceless.
It really is, and I feel very fortunate because I get to spend time with my father, and we get to work together, and we're a great team, and I trust him more than anything in the world.
But he knows you too. That's the thing. He knows you, Clay, the son, but he knows you, Clay, the performer, and he knows what's best for you. So there's this fantastic trust relationship there already. Going back to a question we asked sort of right at the start, we said about the producers that are kind of lining up for you at the moment, with, in particular, Michael B. Sutton. Michael Jackson's producer originally of Motown as well. So Michael B. Sutton, a huge name in the industry, working with you now. And we've got other producers kind of lining up saying, what will it take to work with Clay Melton? How does that affect you or make you feel? Or how does the band get on with that now that you've got some serious heavyweight coming up asking questions about wanting to work with you?
We've been trying to prepare ourselves to get the ball rolling. We've been working on this release all last year of 2015. I basically spent 50-plus hours a week in the studio just writing and recording and getting ready to go into the actual recording process up here in Austin. So it's definitely a big change going from a year of just really solely focusing on the music and getting ready for a release. And now that we kind of have those cards in place, it's a different game. Having the opportunity to work with someone like Michael, I would say opened up kind of our eyes to the scope of the industry and how some things work. It's been very educational. I've learned a lot just from the time that we started working with him. And so it's different, but the main objective hasn't changed. When we go into a rehearsal room, we're there to play music. The business side of things gets taken care of, but at the end of the day, it starts with the music.
You were recording also in Austin, right? You were
Yes.
recording here.
Yeah, we recorded with Sebastian Cure of White Room Studios up here in Austin. He's a fantastic producer.
That's a new album that you have coming out very soon, right?
Yes, it's going to be called Stop and Listen.
Clay, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you this morning over the table, across the table here on our Artist Expose live from Austin, Texas. The music capital of the world, the live music capital of the world, so we're told.
That's right.
So Clay Melton from the Clay Melton Band. You can find out more at claymeltonband.com. I think I have that right.
That's right.
And wish you great success with today's event, i.e. with the gig, and continued success with the future of the band. Thanks for talking to us today.
Thank you very much, Paul.